I have timed it to the second. 17 steps from the elevator to my car, badge out, keys in my right hand, teeth between the fingers the way my mother taught me before I understood why mothers teach daughters that. Left hand on my phone, thumb already hovering over the number I've dialed so many times. The cops stopped sounding surprised. 17 steps, level B2 every night for 4 months, and every night for 4 months I have done the math. A woman like me does in a parking garage at 9 p.m. Is tonight the night he's here? Tonight, the math came out wrong. I heard him before I saw him. Shoes on concrete, not the hollow echo of someone walking to their own car. The paced sound, the measured tread, the rhythm of a man who's been waiting and has now started moving because his target has appeared. Ren. His voice came from behind pillar C7. I know every pillar in this garage, the way a soldier knows her foxholes. C7 is the blind spot, no camera. I filed a report about that camera 4 months ago. Maintenance said it was on the list. Gavin Marsh stepped into the fluorescent light and smiled at me. The way he always smiled. Warm, patient, the smile of a man who genuinely believes he is being romantic. You didn't answer my email, he said. The one about the restaurant I made the reservation for Thursday. I stopped walking. 17 steps became 12, 5 steps from my car and 1,000 miles from safety. Because safety isn't a distance, it's a world where the man standing between you and your car doesn't know your schedule. Better than you do? Gavin. My voice was the voice I use for clients. Flat, professional, a wall built of vowels. We've discussed this. You need to leave. We've discussed it. He tilted his head. You mean the restraining order? The one you got? Because I tried to take you to dinner? He laughed, genuinely laughed. The way you laugh at a child who's overreacted. Ren, I'm not going to hurt you. I've never hurt you. I just want to talk. Is that so terrible? That a man wants to talk to you? And there it was. The sentence, the particular sentence that had frozen me in place 100 times. Is that so terrible, as if wanting to talk to someone gives you the right to wait in their parking garage, as if a smile and a dinner reservation. Erase the 47 emails, the 9 voicemails, the flowers delivered to my desk every Monday. For 3 months. Signed. From someone who sees you the 3 times. I found him sitting in his car outside my apartment at 2 in the morning. As if I just want to talk, is not the sentence that ends in, and if you won't let me, there's a version of this where you don't get to say no. I gripped my parking badge so hard, the edge cut my palm. Badge number 14. I've held it this way so many times. The metal is wearing smooth, and then, from the far end of level B2, a voice I'd heard exactly twice in my professional life. Both times across a mahogany desk, both times discussing numbers in the millions, spoke into the concrete dark. Miss Calloway, your car is the silver one. Yes, I seem to be blocking you. Let me move. Don Nico Ferrante walked out of the shadows of level B2. The way weather moves unhurried, inevitable, the kind of thing you feel changing before you see it arrive. He wasn't hiding. That was the thing I understood later. He'd been there the whole time. Leaning against his car at the far end of B2 after a late appointment with the senior partner, waiting for his driver, he'd been there when I came out of the elevator. He'd been there when Gavin stepped from behind C7. He'd seen everything. I'm sorry, Gavin said, turning, still smiling. The particular smile of a man who doesn't know he should be afraid. I don't think we haven't. Nico stopped, 3 feet from us. He wasn't looking at me, he was looking at Gavin. The way a man looks at a number that doesn't add up, with the patient, precise attention of someone who has already done the math. I was just leaving, but I appear to be in Ms. Calloway's way, so... He turned to me and his face changed. Not softer exactly, but different. The way a blade looks different, depending on who it's pointed at. Shall I walk you to your car? It wasn't a question, it was a wall offered in the shape of a question. And I have never in my life been so grateful for a wall. Yes, I said, thank you. We walked 12 steps. He didn't touch me, didn't put a hand on my back, the way men do when they're performing protection. He just walked beside me, between me and Gavin, and his presence filled the space, the way concrete fills a pillar. Solid, inarguable. There Gavin didn't follow, Not because he was afraid. I don't think Gavin has the wiring for afraid, but because the math had changed. There were two of us now, and one of us was a man whose name Gavin didn't know, and the not knowing was enough to buy me 12 steps and a car door and a drive home, where I didn't cry until I was inside my apartment with the deadbolt thrown. But I need to take you back, because this didn't start in a parking garage, it started at a desk with a handshake, and the most ordinary words in banking. Ms. Calloway, I'd like to discuss my portfolio. My name is Ren Calloway. I'm 30 years old. I'm a big woman, and I am very, very good at a job the world keeps trying to make about everything, except how good I am at it. I'm a private wealth manager at Hargrove & Stern, one of the oldest private banking firms in the city. I manage portfolios worth more than most people will see in 10 lifetimes, and I do it with a precision that has earned me the corner office, the mahogany desk, and the quiet respect of every senior partner in the building. I'm telling you this because the world wants you to see the big girl first and the banker second, and I need you to understand that in my office behind my desk, the order is reversed. I am the numbers. The numbers are flawless, and the rest, the size, the body. The particular way certain men look at me like I should be grateful. They're looking at all. That's weather, not a verdict. But here's the thing about being good at what you do. When you're a woman, the world has decided. Shouldn't be. Someone always decides. Your competence is an invitation. A compliment becomes a comment, becomes a conversation you didn't ask for, becomes a presence you can't escape. And the whole time, the world asks you, what did you do to encourage it? If that story sounds familiar, if you've ever been the woman who was good at her job and got punished for being visible, I need you to stay. Subscribe now, because what happened to Ren Calloway at that desk is not where her story ends. Gavin Marsh came to me as a client. That's how it always starts, inside the system, where the rules are supposed to protect you. He transferred his portfolio to Hargrove & Stern. 14 months ago, requested me specifically, which wasn't unusual. I have a reputation, and clients request me. He was wealthy enough to qualify for private banking. Tech money, clean on paper, polite, well-dressed, the kind of man who says, please and thank you, and holds the door, and makes you think the manners are real. For 3 months, he was a normal client. Quarterly reviews, portfolio adjustments, conversations about risk tolerance and market exposure. Normal, and then the flowers started. Just a thank you, Gavin said. When I asked about the white roses that appeared on my desk on a Monday, for the work you've been doing, you deserve to know someone notices. I should have reported it then, I know that now. But here's the thing. About being a woman in a building full of money? A client sends you flowers, and you report it, and the partner's here, she can't handle the client relationship? Not. She's being harassed. The flowers were a test. I didn't know I was taking. If I accepted them, I was encouraging. If I refused them, I was difficult. If I reported them, I was a liability. I said thank you. I moved the flowers to the reception desk, and I thought it was over. It was not over. I was thinking, Gavin said at our next meeting, leaning forward, closer than the desk required. We should discuss this over dinner. I know a place, Mr. Marsh? I don't socialize with clients. Firm policy? Then I'll move my accounts. He said it with a smile. Problem solved. That's not how this works. How does it work then? He tilted his head, and for the first time, I saw it. The thing underneath the manners, the wiring that was wrong, the absolute certainty that no was a word that applied to other people. Because I'm looking at a woman who manages $500 million for strangers and can't manage a dinner invitation. That seems like a waste, Ren. He used my first name. I hadn't offered it. He'd found it somewhere, on a directory, on a desk plate. In a world where a woman's name is public property and her space is an opinion. The email started a week after the dinner refusal. 47, in the first month, not threatening. That's what the police told me. Not threatening, ma'am. As if a man who emails you 47 times after being told no is a communication style. And not a countdown. I drove past the bakery on Elm and thought of you. You'd like their croissants. How did he know I lived near Elm Street? Saw you at the gym on Thursday. You look strong. I admire a woman who takes care of herself. I don't post about my gym schedule. He followed me. There. I've been thinking about what you said, that you don't socialize with clients. I respect that, but I'm not asking as a client. Ren, I'm asking as a man who sees you. There it was, a man who sees you, as if being seen by a man is a gift a woman should be grateful for, even when the seeing is surveillance, and the gift is a cage made of attention. I went to HR. HR said they'd talk to him. What that meant was an email, a polite email, asking Mr. Marsh if he'd like to transfer to a different account manager. He declined. He said he valued our professional relationship, and he was sorry if his friendliness had been misinterpreted. Misinterpreted. I went to the police. The police took a report. The report joined a filing cabinet. The filing cabinet was in a room where 47 emails from a man who knew my gym schedule and my street and my morning routine were categorized as not threatening. I got the restraining order on my own time, with my own money. The judge granted it. Gavin was served, and do you know what a restraining order is in the real world? It's a piece of paper. That tells a man who doesn't respect boundaries that there's now a boundary on paper, and it works exactly as well as every other piece of paper works on a man who doesn't read. The word no, he stopped emailing. He started showing up, not close enough to violate the order, just there, across the street from my building, in the coffee shop next to the bank, in the parking garage of the building where I work, sitting in his car watching me walk to mine. Not threatening, just present, the way weather is present, the way dread is present, the way the absence of safety is present, in every step between an elevator and a car, on level B2 at 9 o'clock at night. Don Nico Ferrante became my client. 11 months ago, I managed 3 accounts for his family's holdings. Legitimate, clean, the kind of money that funds foundations and real estate and the occasional vineyard. The partners whispered about his name. The way people whisper about weather. Careful. Don't get too close. But the money is real, and the man pays on time, and they gave the accounts to me because I was the best, and because if I'm honest, they assumed a woman like me wouldn't be distracted by a man like him. They were right about one thing. I wasn't distracted. I was professional. I managed his money, the way I managed every client's money. To the decimal, with the focus, that was the one thing no one could take from me, but Nico Ferrante was different from my other clients in one way. And it took me a while to understand what it was. He listened, not the performance of listening that wealthy clients do while waiting for their turn to talk. He actually listened to my analysis, to my recommendations, to the reasoning behind every number. He asked questions that showed he'd read the documents I'd sent. He called me MS Calloway in a voice that made the title sound like a rank he respected, rather than a label he was tolerating. And once, just once, at the end of a long meeting, he paused at the door of my office and said, "You're very good at this." "Thank you. I mean it," he turned, dark eyes, the kind of face that commands rooms, but was right now just looking at me. "In my life, Miss Calloway, I'm surrounded by people who tell me what I want to hear. You tell me what the numbers say? That's rare. I want you to know it's valued." He left. I sat at my desk and held my parking badge and thought about the 2 kinds of men who had paid attention to me this year. The one who saw a woman worth cornering, and the one who saw a banker worth respecting, and I understood with a clarity that hurt, that the world rewards the first kind with patience and understanding, and the second kind with nothing. Because a man who simply respects a woman's competence doesn't make a story. It doesn't generate reports, or flowers, or emails, or restraining orders. It just generates the quiet warmth of being seen for what you do instead of what you look like. I kept that warmth, the way I kept badge number 14, in my hand, when I was afraid. 4 months into the parking garage routine, 3 police reports, 1 restraining order, 47 emails, 9 voicemails, 11 in-person appearances, that skirted the legal line with the precision of a man who had studied exactly where the line was and made a career of standing 1 inch behind it, and a camera on pillar C7 that had been broken for 4 months and that maintenance kept promising to fix and never did. I made a decision that night, the night Nico Ferrante walked me to my car, that I was going to leave, Hargrove and Stern, not because of Gavin, because of everything around Gavin. The HR that filed and forgot the police who categorized and closed. The camera that stayed broken. The system that required me to be damaged before it would protect me. and then asked why I'd let myself get damaged. I typed my resignation on my laptop at midnight at my kitchen table with my parking badge on the table beside me and my deadbolt thrown and the specific silence of a woman who has run out of roads. And at 12:15 my phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. But something, the hour, the silence, the exhaustion that makes you reckless, made me pick up Ms. Calloway, Nico Ferrante's voice. Low and precise. I apologize for the hour. I need to tell you something, and it concerns your safety, so I'm not going to wait until morning. How did you get my personal number? You're my banker. It's in my file. A pause. The man in the garage tonight, how long I should have said. I can't discuss this. I should have said that's a personal matter, but it was midnight, and I was sitting in the dark with a resignation letter on my screen, and a man I trusted with numbers was asking me a question. No one else had asked in 4 months. Not, did something happen? Not, are you sure you're not overreacting? Just how long? 14 months, I said. And the firm? No's and the police? No and nothing? And nothing is silence, the kind of silence that is not empty, but full of a man doing math he doesn't like. Ms. Calloway, Nico said, I would like to help. I need your permission to do so, and I need you to understand what my help looks like. Because it doesn't look like the police, and it doesn't look like HR, and it doesn't look like a camera. Someone promises to fix. My help is permanent, and it is not gentle. What does that mean? It means that by tomorrow morning, the man in the garage will understand, clearly, specifically, and without ambiguity, that his presence in your life is over. Not recommended against, not discouraged. Over, it means that the camera on C7 will be repaired by noon. It means that your walks from the elevator to your car will have company for as long as you want it. And that company will be people whose job is to be exactly where danger is and be more dangerous. And it means that Gavin Marsh will never again have the opportunity to stand behind a pillar and say your name. You can't promise that. I can. No hesitation. Miss Calloway, I've spent my career in a world where promises are kept because the alternative is unthinkable. This is not the police. This is not HR. This is me telling you that I will fix this and asking you to believe me. Why? The question came out before I could shape it into something more professional. Because I sat in a parking garage tonight and watched a man corner a woman who manages my family's money with more skill than anyone I've ever employed, and I watched the fear on her face and I understood that the system designed to protect her had failed. In every single way, it could fail. And because my mother raised me to believe that watching a woman be afraid, when you have the power to end the fear, is the definition of complicity, a beat. And because you're very good at what you do, and I find I'm angry that someone is trying to take that from you. I held my parking badge, number 14, the edge cutting into my palm, the way it always did. Yes, I said yes. Fix it. I don't know all of what happened, that's the truth. Nico Ferrante did not describe it to me. And I did not ask, because some things you receive as a result, and not a process. What I know is this. The camera on C7 was fixed by 10 a.m., not by maintenance, by a private security firm that arrived at 7 with equipment and credentials, and a work order signed by the building's actual owner. A name I'd never heard that turned out to be held by a trust, that turned out to be managed by people who answered phone calls from Nico Ferrante. What I know is this: Gavin Marsh did not appear in the coffee shop next to the bank that morning, or the morning after, or any morning since, what I know, because a detective called me 3 days later to inform me, with a confusion in his voice that I found deeply satisfying, is that Gavin Marsh had voluntarily surrendered himself to the police, confessed to violating the restraining order on 14 separate occasions, and entered a guilty plea that included full compliance with a monitoring program and a relocation to a city 400 miles away. Voluntarily, I don't know what conversation produced that voluntariness. I don't know what was said in the coffee shop, where Gavin Marsh sat between two men who didn't touch him and didn't need to. I don't know what version of Gavin Marsh's future was described to him in enough detail that he chose for the first time in 14 months to be afraid instead of entitled. I know that it worked. I know that the fear I'd carried for 14 months, the specific, bone-deep parking garage fear of a woman who has been told by every institution in her life that her safety is on the list, was gone in a morning, and I know that when I walked to my car that night, on level B2, 17 steps, badge in my hand, keys in my pocket, the garage was empty, really empty for the first time in 4 months. The silence was just silence. Here's my question for you. If you were me, the woman whose stalker vanished overnight, because a man who isn't the police and isn't the law decided the law had failed long enough, would you accept it? Would you take his shield? Let a dangerous man protect you. Trust that his kind of safety isn't just a different kind of cage, or would you keep her vault, your own desk, your own badge, your own 17 steps, and rebuild the walls yourself? Vote below. I'll tell you what I chose. The system that had failed to protect me found within 48 hours the energy to punish me for being protected. 3 days after Gavin Marsh disappeared from my life, I was called into the boardroom at Hargrove and Stern, 3 senior partners, the managing director, and a conversation that started with, "We need to discuss your client relationship with the Ferrante accounts," and ended in a place that made the parking garage look like a safety zone. Ms. Calloway, Richard Stern, the senior partner, leaning back, the particular lean of a man who is about to describe a woman's survival as a liability. "It's come to our attention that you've developed a personal relationship with Don Ferrante that extends beyond the scope of your professional engagement." I haven't. Our information suggests otherwise. A late-night phone call. Private security engaged on your behalf. A client intervening in a personal matter. He steepled his fingers. "This firm has policies, Miss Calloway. You know them better than anyone. And regardless of the circumstances. The optics. The word left my mouth before I could stop it. Mr. Stern, for 14 months, I reported a stalker to this firm's HR department. I filed 3 internal complaints. I requested a camera repair. That was never completed. I asked for an escort to my car. That was denied. Because, and I'm quoting your HR director, we can't accommodate every personal concern. 14 months. And in that time, the only person in this entire building who actually did something, was a client. And your concern is the optics." The room went very quiet. The quiet of men who have just been confronted with a receipt. They didn't know someone was keeping. "Ms. Calloway, we understand you were in a difficult—" "I was in danger. That's not difficult. That's a word with a different number of letters." The boardroom door opened. Nobody had knocked. Nico Ferrante walked in. The way he walked through parking garages, unhurried, certain. The kind of presence that doesn't ask for a room's attention because it already owns it. "Gentlemen," he said, "I understand you're discussing Ms. Calloway's employment." Stern stood up, the reflex of a man whose largest client has just appeared uninvited in his boardroom. "Mr. Ferrante, this is an internal. It became my business when your firm failed to protect a woman who works for you, and I had to do it instead." Nico didn't sit. He stood at the head of the table like a man who owns the room, which I realized with a chill he functionally did. The Ferrante accounts were worth more than the next 10 clients combined. 14 months, 3 complaints, a broken camera, a denied escort, and when someone finally acts, your response is to interrogate the woman instead of the system. We're not interrogating. You called her into a boardroom with 3 partners to discuss the optics of her survival. Nico's voice was quiet. The quiet, that's worse than any shout. Let me describe the optics from where I'm standing. A firm that knew one of its bankers was being stalked by a client. A firm that did nothing. A firm that is now 48 hours after the problem was solved by someone else. Considering terminating the banker, not the failure, he looked at each partner in turn. Those are very bad optics, Mr. Stern. The kind that interest lawyers and journalists, and the kind of clients who move their money when they learn what a firm's policies actually protect. The room was so quiet, I could hear the clock on the wall. "Ms. Calloway stays," Nico said. "Her position, her title, her office, her clients, all of it. The camera on C7 stays repaired. The escort policy gets rewritten. And if anyone in this building retaliates against her for the crime of having been protected when you failed to protect her, I will move every account I hold with this firm, and I will explain to the market exactly why. He looked at me, not at the partners, at me. Unless Miss Calloway tells me she prefers to handle this herself, in which case I'll leave, and this conversation never happened. Afterward, in the hallway, he held something out. To me, my parking badge, number 14. It had fallen from my hand in the boardroom. I grip it when I'm afraid, and I hadn't realized I'd been gripping it, and he'd picked it up. "You dropped this," he said. I looked at the badge. I looked at him, and I said the thing I'd been carrying since the parking garage. "Why do you care?" "I told you, my mother." "No." I shook my head. "Not the reason from the phone call. The real reason. You have 900 accounts. You've been a client for 11 months. You don't do this. Rescue the banker face down. The partners threatened to move your money for a portfolio manager. Why do you care about me?" He held the badge a moment longer. Then he set it on the hallway table between us. Carefully. "The way you set down something, you're returning to its owner. Because 11 months ago," he said, "a woman sat across a desk from me and told me my portfolio had a weakness I hadn't seen, and she told me the truth about it, when every other banker I've had would have smiled and charged me for the privilege of being lied to. And I thought, this woman is the most competent person in this building. And this building doesn't deserve her." He paused, and then I sat in a parking garage and watched a man say her name from behind a pillar, and I watched her grip a parking badge like a weapon, because it was the only weapon anyone had given her, and I understood that the most competent woman I'd ever met was spending her nights counting steps to her car. And I found, he stopped, set his jaw, the most dangerous man in the city, choosing his words, like a man disarming something. I found that I could not sit in a car and watch that, and do nothing, not because of my mother, because of me. I should have been smart. I should have said thank you, Mr. Ferrante, taken my badge, walked back to my desk, and maintained the professional distance that keeps a woman like me safe in a world like mine. Instead, I told him the truth, the only reckless thing I've done. Besides picking up a midnight phone call. "You want to know something?" I said. "In 14 months of being stalked, you're the only person who asked how long, not what happened, not are you sure, not what did you do to encourage it, just how long, like the only thing that mattered was the math. How long a woman had been afraid, and how quickly it could stop. Ren, everyone else in my life looked at the situation and saw a problem to manage. I said, you looked at it and saw a person in danger, and I need you to understand what that is. To a woman who has spent 14 months being told her fear is a personal concern. It's everything." My voice cracked. I let it. "But I can't be what this turns into if I let it be easy," I said. "I won't be the banker you rescued, the pet project, the woman who owes you her safety. I owe you my gratitude and I'm giving it. But I won't owe you, me. I've spent 14 months being someone's obsession. I won't trade one man's attention for another's, even if the second one is kind." He listened, the way he always listened, completely, without rehearsing his response. "If you mean what you said in that boardroom," I continued, "then here's how it works. I keep my job because I earned it. Not because you threatened the partners. You don't fix things for me. You let me fix them, and if I ask for help, then you help. You don't put security on me without asking. You don't make decisions about my safety, as if my safety is a department. You run. Agreed. And if you want to know me beyond the portfolio, beyond the parking garage, you come to the front door in the daylight. Not to the office, not to level B2. You call and you ask, and I say yes or I say no, and both of those words mean exactly what they mean. I'm done with men who hear no and translate it into try harder. That's fair. And the day you make a decision about my life without asking me, even a good one, even a protective one, we're done. I rebuild my own walls, and I'll do it alone, because I've been doing it alone for 14 months, and I'm still standing." Nico Ferrante looked at me, in the hallway of Hargrove and Stern, and the corner of his mouth did something I'd never seen. In 11 months of boardroom meetings and portfolio reviews, it went soft. "Those are very hard terms, Miss Calloway. They're the only ones I've got. Good, he said. I've spent my whole life surrounded by people who offer easy ones. He picked up the parking badge from the table, held it up. May I return this? I believe it belongs to the most competent person in the building. I took it. Badge number 14, worn smooth now. His fingers on it, mine, all those nights, gripping it in the dark. I'll call you tomorrow, he said, in the daylight, from the front door. And he does. Here's where I am now. I kept my job. Not because a powerful man threatened the partners, though he did, but because after he left that boardroom I walked back in alone, sat down and explained to 3 men in leather chairs that the next time a woman in their building files a complaint, the response will be action, not optics, and they listened, not because of me, because of what the alternative cost, but they listened, and the policy changed, and the camera on C7 has been working ever since, and there's an escort program now, and my name is on the committee that runs it. I built that wall myself, with numbers, the way I build everything. And Nico comes around in the daylight. From the front door he calls first. He asks. He has never once made a decision about my life without asking, and watching the most dangerous man in the city. Be careful, and patient, and humble, with a woman who spent 14 months being afraid. That, it turns out, is the only kind of attention that doesn't feel like a cage. And parking badge number 14 sits on my desk now, between a nameplate and a coffee cup. Worn smooth on both sides. Mine, from gripping it in the dark. His, from holding it in a hallway, waiting for me to take it back. The smallest thing in the office, and the heaviest thing, I own because a piece of plastic with a number on it was the only weapon anyone gave me for 14 months. And then a man who could have looked away decided that watching was complicity, and a woman who could have been rescued decided that she'd rather be respected. I won't tell you it's simple. He is what he is. His world is what it is. There are nights I drive through level B2 and still count the steps. But I know this. I spent 14 months being a target, and a filing number, and a personal concern, and the one time someone actually did something. It wasn't the system. It was a man who sat in a car and watched, and couldn't sit there anymore. And then I had the harder courage to refuse to be rescued and insist on being seen. They told me my fear was a personal concern. The man in the parking garage decided it was personal to him. And the woman behind the desk decided that if anyone was going to rebuild her walls, it would be her own hands that did it. If you were me, stalked, saved, standing in a hallway with a parking badge and a choice, would you take his shield, or would you keep her vault, your desk, your badge, your 17 steps, and build your own safety? Brick by brick, tell me below. And if you've ever been the woman who counted steps in a parking garage, the one who gripped her keys like a weapon and checked the shadows behind every pillar, hear this. Your fear is not a personal concern. Your fear is real, and it deserves a response. And one day, someone will look at it and feel the same thing. You feel that it should not exist, and they'll do something about it, not because they own you, because they can't watch anymore. Now, if you haven't subscribed, hit the button, turn on the bell, because next week's story, she didn't count steps. She counted seconds. And the mafia boss was already counting with her. Before you go, if Ren's story moved you, there's a hype button right below this video. Tap it. 3 free points every week. Like fixing a camera no one else would fix. Small, quiet, and it changes everything. For the person who needed it.